What's good? It's your man Big back in the motherfucking building. We're back at it again. We're going live tonight. Just got a little subject. I was thinking about the other day, just listening to one of these other podcasts. I think it was Just Pearly, and she had on a girl named Melanie King, and then another cat named MTR, and some things were said about pretty much the modern woman and the black. I ain't going to say black, but they was just talking about different relationship issues. And I was just thinking about the black culture here in America and how I think the civil rights movement had a little bit to do with the situations and the situations that we're in today as I guess as a whole for the black community. But I do have a guest in the building tonight, Mr. Expendable. If you want to come off your mic, say hello, introduce yourself.
How everybody doing out there in TV land? You know what I'm saying? Been knowing this brother here for over a year. You know, we chop it up all the time. So he a big cat. We call him big and intelligent man. You know what I'm saying? Black intelligent man. I'm sorry. And you know, he has some real good viewpoints on what's going on. And our society as far as with the black community. And I'm gonna let you take it over, brother. I don't want to say too much, you know, before you get the show started, but I'll give my input or give my 2 cents on what I think what has happened with the structure of our people.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and pull up this one video right quick so you can get a little bit of context of what really sparked my mind or interest in this conversation tonight. Just give a shout out to, I guess, Just Pearly and her podcast. They're doing pretty good things over there. Let me just pull that up 1 second.
The 5 to 10% of men, right?
The ideals of it as
What? Just more adjacent. Yeah. Well,
Oh, sorry, this is the wrong one.
The 5 to 10% of men, right? Not all, but most men are not just spending frivolously, and so
like there has to be something. Like, what is that? What Amber Heard?
And
She took a shit on people. Most people believe that women are quite innocent. Believe that
the women will run. They will go. Not make money. This is an excuse when you're living. This is how it works naturally, right? And honestly, how do we get here?
women are running the street.
Because they.
She talked about it.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Said women were greedy because it was coming from the government. No. The men have taken a passive seat to allow women to.
Just listen in on this right quick, and then we'll get to
women are being men.
the show.
We're out here in the streets, and we're doing what we're doing.
Women who are
We chose to do that.
We chose to do what?
So whose fault is it? The men or the person making the choice? We made the choice to sleep
Well,
around.
let's be clear though. Where did that come from? Because back in the day when men were leading,
we're in control of sex. They're in control of relationships.
Okay, so but where did that come from? It came from a lack of fathers sitting their daughters down. To her point, she brought up a very good point, and I guarantee you, if this 80% of women had men, what do you mean why?
But why? Because there's incentive structures in place that allow women to take the father out of the home with no consequence. And women chose
historically,
to do,
absolutely.
And women in the last 100 years, or
absolutely,
since the 60s.
Yeah.
So again, women chose to do that. We didn't have to take those structures up.
Okay, so We kind of were forced to. That's another.
No, we were not, ma'am. No.
We were not forced to.
We were
if
not
you were going to
forced
get a
to
check, if your husband was in the house and you had to provide for him and the kids, we absolutely were forced to take the government.
That's a false narrative. That's a false narrative.
Paint me the real one.
No, because I will back it up. So if we go back into this, it is third wave feminism that actually caused this, and we talked about it earlier. I was talking to Pearl about it, about Cosmopolitan magazine and how they actually it made money.
Okay, now this is my point. She brings up Cosmopolitan magazine, which was a big magazine throughout, like, I guess, the 60s and 70s. But just go ahead and continue listening, and then we're gonna break this whole little thing down.
To create in the Black family structure specifically, because this is where the problem really lies in the world, in the U.S. I would say. I don't know how it is in the U.K., but our family structure, they purposely destroyed our family structure because it made them money. We can go into even government welfare, government cheese. There was a surplus of farmers having cows. They needed to make money. Government grants and somebody needed to get this cheese. So to get this milk, get the food that they had a surplus in, or it would go rotten and these farmers would not make money. This is layered upon layers of layers that were systematic. So to say we did not have a choice, we chose greed. We chose a bag over a man. We chose to not have our children. We would rather have a bunch of money than have our children have a father in the home. So we're not saying no. You have to know the history. This is proven fact.
History. No, men were not able to work and provide for their families. We were forced to take the government check.
That's false.
They couldn't stay in the house if they were there.
That's false.
Then how were they going to feed the children? And where were
the children were fed? Women were greedy
because it was coming from the government.
No. Let's get this clear. Black women wanted to be like white women in the Cosmopolitan magazine. The woman who started Cosmopolitan magazine, the main editor, she's now a Catholic, and she repented from what she did. She said we were teaching women because we wanted all women to feel that we had a gripe with white men. And so this is public knowledge. You look it up on YouTube.
She talked about it.
Yes, absolutely. They wanted Black women to also be part of their movement and other races because it wasn't enough. The Black woman and the Black man had to stay together in the U.S. because it was the only way for us to overcome. What they did was with Cosmo, they lied. These were women that would say, you know what, there's a single woman moved to New York. She's sleeping with different men. She has her life. She has her own money, her education. She's getting these jobs. These women were promoting promiscuity and living a certain lifestyle when they were all married. They were all lying and making up these people because it was supposed to be a fantasy magazine. But women were taken as gospel and real. And so what happened is Black women saw the white woman as pinnacle, because we're not going into colorism and all that. That's not what this show is about. But we saw the white woman as what to strive for as Black women. We're saying these white women are free. These white women are independent. These white women don't need no man. I don't need mine. He's not doing enough. He's not good enough as a Black man. When our entire lives, how we came out of everything we did in the U.S. was through the Black man and Black woman coming together. So we allowed these women and these corporations who wanted to make money off of our backs, and they knew that we had a insecurity about being dark, about being Black, and we wanted to strive to the higher societies because white women were seen as the highest. So we think we want to be like white women, get our education, do this, do that. When those women were lying even to other white women, they were lying to us as Black women. So then the government stepped in. There's whole documentaries about this on Black history. And I mean, Black historians will not refute this. This is what we all know as gospel in our communities. So what you're saying right here is Black children, when we were being provided for, but it wasn't enough. We wanted to be like white women, and we had greed in our eyes. We had envy in our eyes. And we're like, I don't need no Black man. I can do better. I can do bad all by myself. And so our children, it's a false narrative to say if our children were not eating. Our children were eating. We want it better.
And because the idea.
Okay, now we're going to stop there. So far, anything that you heard, Silent, that caught your attention before we move on?
I heard accountability from one woman, and from the other lady, I heard excuses. So that's pretty much all I got to say on that. So it's always it's this debate that we have. Some of our women who take accountability for the choice they made, and then we have some of our women that don't want to take accountability and want to put all the blame on the man, on the black man. My thing about it all is the ones that don't want to take accountability, they got kind of brainwashed. And this is just my opinion, it's not fact. But it seemed like they got brainwashed by the feminist movement, and the feminists were tired of what the white men were doing to them and them not having a voice. Because you got to understand, voting back in those days with the 20s and all that stuff, women wasn't allowed to vote. And that means not only black women, that meant white women, Mexican women, Asian women, Indian women, Native women, indigenous women, whatever woman you want to think about wasn't allowed to vote. And of course, you already know blacks wasn't allowed to vote. So for us to be entangled into that web that this one lady is trying to put on us, as far as us being a man, is not right, because we were in the same boat as them. Now, I'm not saying that the black man had it worse than the black woman. Oh no, I'm not saying that, because our sisters have endured a lot. And maybe it's the pain that they endured and they feel like we didn't stand up or couldn't do anything. But we had a lot of brothers that were more valuable alive to their family than being dead to their family. So a lot of them didn't stand up. I'm not giving it an excuse. I'm not saying that it was right. But this just from what I'm hearing is that's pretty much it. There's accountability on one end, and not being accountable on the other. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Yeah, one thing that caught my attention, like towards the end of that little clip, uh, the one lady, I think Melanie King, said she wanted, well, not she, but the black woman wanted actually to see, wanted to do pretty much what they seen the white woman doing. So like going off to work, making money. But at the same time, I think like the black man, yeah, sure, he wasn't able to get the best of the jobs. Yeah, he could, depending on what field you was in and your qualifications, but they had to work 10 times harder to get that. But what the black man was able to bring to the table was, I think, what she was getting to was sometimes the black woman didn't think that was sufficient enough, and she wanted more than what the man could actually provide.
Which
But
at the time was an impossibility, because we were, you know what I'm saying, like you say, we wasn't educated and we didn't get the fair chance to do any of that stuff. So it's crazy.
let me
You
play a
know,
clip from this one guy. I forget his name. He's from either the Philadelphia area or the Baltimore area, one of the two. I forget. I think I want to say Philadelphia, but he gives the recount of his story growing up in the 50s before the civil rights movement and how things were. Let me play this clip for you.
I grew up in South Philadelphia. We didn't realize it was segregated. All we knew is that our neighborhood was all black, and we weren't even that conscious of color, because the people who owned the store down the street were black, the tailor, the restaurant owners, the undertaker, everybody in the neighborhood, and it was a very small street. Everybody worked, blue collar, essentially. Very close-knit neighborhood. Everyone had over 4 children. We played in the streets together. On Saturday morning, our parents came out and the hucksters came around and our parents purchased things. We had to go buy ice because there were no refrigerators then. We had a coal stove, so the younger kids were responsible for putting wood and coal into the stove and keeping it going. And the level of interest in education was just profound. I mean, even to this day, I don't think I've ever had such a positive educational experience that I did in my first 6 years.
right there, he said they grew up in a city where they all had where they went to an all black school and the education was sufficient enough for them to learn and be educated, and somehow desegregation and wanting us to get out of our own schools and then being put in or integrated in with this white school system. And then you see, like today, the school systems, I ain't gonna say all black kids are doing bad, but sometimes you can see the uh see what oh gosh, I lost my damn footing. You can see like the not disconnect, but the disproportionate of pretty much like the reading levels, the math levels, and all of the different other grades that they give these kids these days. I think the kids back in the day were a whole lot smarter, a whole lot more educated, and we were in our own schools being taught by people that look like us. Sometimes lived in the same communities as us. But let me continue.
because school was an integral part of the community. You had a black superintendent, black principal, all the teachers were black. Many of them didn't live in the neighborhood either. Contrary to popular belief, they were middle income people who lived elsewhere. But their hearts and their souls were into those kids. I remember that third grade and fourth grade plays were always conducted in the evenings so that parents could attend. And an auditorium that seated maybe 400, 500 people was standing room only for a third and fourth grade play. Up until 1959, 78% of all black families had a man and a woman in them. That's a fact. Teen pregnancy was looked down upon. Sexual activity among kids, everyone bragged about it, no one did it. And but if someone became pregnant, if there was an aunt in the South, they would go there, so that the moral standards and ethical standards for people living in those communities was extremely high. It had little to do with your income. Many of us were poor without realizing that we were poor. During the war years, I thought everyone had one pair of shoes. Today, I have a lot of shoes because of those early experiences. You know, you put cardboard in your shoes when your soles were worn out. You never went to your mother and said, Mom, my shoes need to be replaced or fixed. You just knew that the money wasn't there for that. So you got the thickest piece of cardboard you can find and put it in your shoes. And if it didn't rain, you could last for 2 days. The discipline was in the community. I mean, you didn't speak back to an adult. The thought of an elderly person being disrespected was just unheard of. And teachers were never disrespected.
And that's one thing right there. He said the elderly weren't disrespected. It was respect in the school systems. Today you can see or read in these on the news channel or on the internet with these news clippings, shit, kids beating up the elderly, taking their merchandise, kids rude as hell in school.
Now, the only thing I gotta disagree with him on is blacks that had a teenage pregnancy went to a aunt down south, maybe up north, I don't know, but I'm from the south, and that didn't happen. If a child, if a teenager got pregnant back in those days, the parents dealt with it, and most likely they made that boy marry that girl. That's what happened, and the reason I know that is because I'm the youngest of five. I'm 40. I'll be 43 in June. My older sister is about to be 55 in August. She was born in 1968. My mother had to marry my sister's father, or my sister's father had to marry my mother because they wasn't trying to have no child out of wedlock. Because down south, the people down south, they were very strictly religious and didn't believe in that. It was already a sin, and they wanted to make those kids have an atonement for their sins. So far as that on him, I don't know because I'm not, like I said, I'm not from up north, bro. So I don't know. Maybe that's how they did it up north. But that was one thing for sure that we did have was, hey, you want to play a grown up game, you're gonna be a grown up now. So that's one thing that we do lack now as a community, in which our community is all over the world, but it's very similar. We lack that now because of the Fair Housing Act, and we can get into that later because I don't want to stay on the soapbox too long.
Oh,
But that
don't
fair
worry.
housing,
Don't worry. We're gonna get there because it's all gonna roll into it all rolls together. But you go ahead, do your thing.
I'm just gonna say this: that Fair Housing Act definitely brainwashed our women. That's what I will say, and I can go further into that. But that Lyndon B. Johnson Democratic Fair Housing Act definitely brainwashed our women, and it's brainwashed our people in a whole. So, like I said, I'm not gonna stay on this soapbox too long. I'm gonna let you run your show, do your videos, but when we come back around to that, I definitely want to speak on that.
Okay, we got another guest in the building, D. If you want to come up off your mic, say hello. I guess not. All right. Well, whenever you're ready, just let us know. We here. All right. Let me continue.
And if you misbehave, you would be spanked by a neighbor. And when your mother got home or father got home, you were spanked there. And God forbid a teacher should ever have to send for your parents, and they had to take off work. That was it. And so it imposed a kind of discipline. And again, it was a discipline that had little to do with how much money you made. There was a sense of comfort, a sense of well-being, a sense of oneness between the school and the community. The early days, civil rights was not an issue. The black colleges gave kids like me, a high school dropout, who dropped out with 3 months after my 17th birthday, and then went into the military and got introduced to learning there, got on flying status, went to a really nice military school, learned airborne electronics, did some flying with the military, and then finished my high school education there, and was told that I could to enter any college in the country because of my scores, but I lacked the kind of confidence. But the black colleges, my college, Cheney State College,
I got to pause that 1 second. Shout out to CU, Channing University, Pennsylvania. Yes, sir.
I think, reached out to me. It was a warm environment. It was almost a continuation of the kind of warm and accepting environment I experienced in the black schools in my native Philadelphia and my old neighborhood. Cheney was a continuation of that kind of loving experience, but it was.
And I'll say this: I went to Cheney State University, and I could definitely say the education up there is by far for a black student is going to be one of the most positive experiences you have because everybody on campus, well, any black college, well, I ain't gonna say any because maybe not all black colleges got the best education system, just like all white colleges may not have the best education system. But I know for sure Cheney, uh, they do put a lot of pride in, put a little bit of, put a whole lot of pride in the education system. But let's continue.
Was tough. I remember I entered with 13 other veterans, and we were given some priority in admissions because it was thought that we were mature. Our grades weren't that great, and so we were placed on academic probation. But over half of us made the dean's list at the end of the first year from academic probation. Many of us who exercised leadership in the civil rights movement in the early and mid 60s, integration was never our goal. We never saw integration as a solution to the problems. We were seeking desegregation. And I think confusion on that point has continued to erode the collective self-confidence of the black community today. Just a very confusion. You see, I fought against de jure segregation. That is, when someone absolutely forbid me to go into a restaurant or live in a given housing complex, I was just restricted by law. I remember when I was discharged from the military, coming home in 1958 and standing in Florida, only person at a ticket window, and have the man stop and wait on a white person. He waited on 10 white people while I was white people while I was standing there. In the meantime, I almost missed a train and couldn't check my bags. That's what I fought against, the indignity of America's apartheid system. So integration was never an issue for me or for many others. And you an idealist? Oh, absolutely. A flaming idealist who had this burning desire to change things, primarily because of my early experience as someone growing up in the South and then being sort of growing up in the North and then dropped in the South in the military, facing raw segregation. I was very bitter from that experience. For 3 years after my discharge in the military, I remember my heart racing every time a red light would flash in my rearview mirror because I was arrested 3 times and in prison in local jails 3 times because of my activism in the South. And so those early memories really motivated me to do something about it. White people while I was standing there.
All right. So just listening there from it, I guess from his experience, what I'm getting out of it is uh up in what the northern parts of the United States, maybe uh yes, it was segregated versus I don't know, more I don't know, silent shoot. You from the South, you tell me what was really thought about the South, I guess back in the 50s and 40s.
Shit, 50s and 40s, when my daddy told me, God rest his soul, they were segregated. My pops graduated high school in 1962. And he went to all black school. Now my mom, she graduated in 1967 or 66. And I want to say she always tells me she caught the tail end of segregation. And for the most part, now this guy was right about that. If some kids didn't make it out of high school or right before they got out of high school, they went to the army. That was the only time that they got respect, and to a certain extent. But they didn't get it back. They didn't get it when they were back home. So, but they went and fought for their country, not because they just loved the country. They were thinking about their people, and it was like, well, they were so, their mind was so set on, we already got some bad white folks over us. We don't want no more. We don't know what these white folks gonna do because they fighting the white folks that got us over here on some other shit. So we don't know what they gonna do. So they had to go over there and go hard. You know what I'm saying? They had to go over there and do their thing. But it's sad that in this society we don't find out about none of this type of stuff until the people that actually went out here and fought for us and created these ways for us to be on. We don't never find out about their story until they're dead and gone. And that's why I gotta tip my head off to Master P when he said, I want to give you your flowers right now. I want to give you your flowers before you go. Because America has that bad that we don't want to give our heroes their flowers until they're gone. So the school system was jacked up as far as with the segregation. They put all these tests in place when our people did integrate because the curriculum was different. They had us behind already because they gave us all the tore up, messed up, written in books, pages tore out. So you had to do the best you could as a teacher to teach your kids because you got all the hand-me-downs. After the white folks had it and ran through it and did what they wanted to do. So pretty much our education system wasn't the best. Back then, just to sum it all up, our education system was terrible. And it wasn't at any fault of at our avail. It was because of the oppressors. They didn't think much of us, but to be nothing but carpenters, butlers, maids, housekeepers, cooks, mammies. That's all that was their role for the black person.
Well, before the civil rights movement though, a lot of these black folks had their own pretty much communities, just like he was saying though. Where he was at in Philadelphia, it was just the town of them black folks, and everybody worked together as one. They had to go to the same school. I don't think like the hand-me-down books ain't coming till later on after the civil rights movement when you start seeing like low income housing, and then you got the school down the street where it's some shit.
I gotta stop you right there, Big. That was in Philadelphia, maybe, but in Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, the Tennessee, Arkansas, that's what it was. They were giving us all the shit, the hand-me-down curriculum after that. So, like I said, up north, it was probably a little bit different at that time. But down here, you got to think about it. These motherfucking crackers, they were sitting up here bombing the schools, keeping standing outside. We just had a thing about Jerry Jones. He was out there trying to keep kids from integrating in Arkansas. You had the 4 little girls at the church that got bombed. You had the rise of Houston behind racial equality. I mean, the list goes on. The March on Selma, all that stuff.
And you know what? I think like this too. I think like a lot of those bombings and fires and like the destruction that they did to the communities that was pretty much colored folks or the black community. Like I think it was just
or the government.
Well, I think well we know who it was, but I'm saying like it was the jealousy because shit, you go back to Black Wall Street, they were booming so much the white man couldn't keep up with the money that was running through Oklahoma. So why not just go ahead and just blow that whole motherfucker up and we take over and get our money back?
That's what I'm saying, bro. The whole thing fell apart, and people might not understand what I'm saying, but everything fell apart when we had this one man that came out talking about he had a dream. When this man started talking about he had a dream that his children would be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin, and implemented the idea of integration into our society, that's when you really get the downfall of what are the structures of what black people are dealing with right now. That was the beginning of the end of everything that we had going on as far as our own community, our own businesses, doing for self, wanting a hand up and not a hand out. All that went out the window with integration. That's all I gotta say on that, bro.
All right, let me get to this next clip, and then we get back to it.
All right.
I haven't had no rosy life, and I don't think there are very few in here that have had a real rosy life. And like I still been by the point that I agree that basically that man is mostly lazy. In other words, I see other people with good jobs, good houses, you know, nice things. I say to myself, well, now, why can't I get off of my lazy behind and get some of these things?
Colored kids have no image. Our images are white. There's no ambition.
I grant you the Negro has been discriminated against 100%. Yes, I grant you that. But not only Negro, not only the Negro, but look how many Jews. Look how many Jew people were burned in thousands. But yet these people didn't let it stop them. They wanted something. They wanted. That's right. So why can't the Negro do this? Stop waiting for someone to hand something out to you.
That's right.
A man has to believe he comes from something, that he comes out of something, that he's somebody. Therefore, he has to be traced back to where he began, so they can have a sense of pride for being what he is. Once a man has respect for what he is, he doesn't have to hate anymore.
We do not have to be better than other men, and we are not. In fact, we are a group of men. We have a genius here and there, a fool now and then, and most people are just average. Now, we will have to be viewed as such.
I know that was a short one, but it was a lot of knowledge that was dropped. I agree with what the first man was saying right there at the beginning. Like, shit, you see everybody else doing well for themselves. If they don't make you want to get up and start doing something with your life, shit.
I agree with him to a certain extent. And the only reason why, because we wasn't granted any federal aid or any economic aid like the Jews or like the so-called Native Americans, or should I say the so-called Jews or the Asians. See, everything that the black man has gotten has been totally on his back. And now when I say black man, I mean black people. So if we got any ladies in here watching, please don't think I'm leaving y'all out. But we had to do everything ourselves. The only thing they ever gave us, and I'm not going to say us, they gave us the black woman a choice. Either you can file child support on this guy that don't want to marry you, that you have kids with, and we'll give you food stamps and we'll give you Section 8 housing, or you can go out there and just go against the odds. And then what we do as a people, we come up, we get people that get generational wealth, life-changing money. I don't expect for every basketball player, baseball player, football player that's black to provide for the whole race or the whole ethnic group in America. But throwing your money away in the strip club, throwing your money away on jewelry and clothes, buying your kids a bunch of nonsense that they don't need, that's not going to help them in life, that is where our problem lies, bro. We don't even think about, hey, you know what? And I mean this as a collective, because it is some brothers and sisters out there that are on the same page as us. They don't know the value of land right now. We need to be keeping land. When all this stuff falls down, the crash of the dollar, we need to be getting, and you know, we talk about this big, we need to get gold, we need to get precious metals, with the gold and silver, platinum, and we need to be getting land. If you already got land, keep it, don't sell it. I know people are calling you, if you're a landowner, and people are calling every day about you selling your land, and they making some pretty generous offers. But what we got to do is keep that in our family, keep that in our line, in our bloodline. And if you have an opportunity to buy land, buy it, because a lot of people don't know with the land you got. If you want to build homes or build businesses on it, you can use that land as collateral. Meaning you don't have to come up with a down payment. Get your credit together. I'm not telling people to say, fuck the white man. Don't do anything the white man has to tell you. Fuck him. He's nothing. He ain't shit. Hey, what you got to do while you over here in this country, America, play the game. Get your money, get your credit up good, buy some land. Because you know why? Because all these other races are coming over here these immigrants, and I have nothing against them. They're coming over here and they're buying up the land. They're getting grants and they're getting all kind of federal aid to do that.
But
so
you know,
we got to go get it. Go ahead, bro.
Well, that's the thing too. You get the land, you got to know what to do with it. Shit, most people don't know what the hell to do with it. They get it, it's just going to sit. May have a house on it, but shit, the rest of the land just sitting in, not making you no type of income or putting any nutritional value into your house.
I'm glad you said nutrition, because that's one thing we need to be thinking about is nutrition. If you have some land, you don't have to have millions or hundreds of acres. You can have a couple of acres, a few acres, or several acres. And you can plant some apple trees, orange trees, depending on the climate that you're living in. Plant some broccoli, okra. You can plant some watermelon. You can go get you a chicken coop. You can go get you a couple cows, a couple goats, and that'll bring your taxes way down. And try to keep, if you're living in a rural area, try to keep your area agriculture. Try to keep that as an agricultural area so you can continue to farm and grow. Because these people want to turn everything into, they want to use this gentrification to turn everything into buildings, high rises, all that type of stuff. They don't want anything else natural because they want to clone the food that they give you. They want to give you this non-GMO stuff, but you can grow your own food. We got to get back to that, bro. We got to get back to that livestock.
That's one part of the title right now. Shit, after the civil rights movement, we gave up all of that and we wanted to go to the high rises. We forgot how to do all of the things, how to prepare the land, prep it, produce some fruits and vegetables, raise some livestock on it.
Say, brother, this is what I want us to do when we get down there. And I'm saying this right now because, you know, I got some land that I just came into. And we all get together. We all going to get together in July, August. I want us to go out here. This is something we could do during the day before we go out and do whatever else we going to do. We can go out there, help me till my land, get my land prepped up, so we can start a community garden. I'm willing to do that if I can get some help with that, bro. Because
well, I was about to say that's the thing. With like the black family structure, like the old guy said in the first video, shit, you had that community where you could get 20, 30 men together, all in the community. We got to go do this thing right quick. Go ahead, put up a building, till up some land, get some things planted or started. And I think that's a great idea whole time. But you got to make sure everybody on the same page. That's one thing I was thinking about too, the word culture and the word community. When you hear about people having a community, people the first thing to say, oh, well, that's some what, not Jeffrey Dahmer type shit. What was the other cat that had the little damn, what was it? I can't think of his name. But the guy pretty much had a bunch of land and shit. He had all the people drink the Kool-Aid and they all died.
You talking about Jim Jones?
Yeah, so they think that's a cult. But I'm like, if you look at the word culture, the first 3 letters cult. And I'm like, man, shit, if anything, when people say I'm doing it for the culture, like, man, you following the cult whole time versus trying to build a fucking community.
And you know what? The whole time, that's what the cult meant, was the culture. They just left it out. They didn't let us know what it meant. Now, granted, I'm not saying go out here and drink Kool-Aid. No. Do your research.
Yeah, nah, I get you.
You know, don't just take my word for it. Don't just listen to me because I sound like I know what I'm talking about. No, research. Make sure. That's where we find the lack. See, go back to what you've been saying and what these people been saying. We always skip over the fine print, as most people do. We skip over the fine print of what's in the contract. And that fine print always comes back to bite you in your ass. See, when they were signing that contract for the Fair Housing Act and the food stamps and the child support, they didn't get that your son possibly will be gay, your daughter will possibly be raped, your baby father will be in jail or dead and have to sell drugs, your son probably will follow in the same footsteps, and your daughter will be doomed to repeat the same fucking cycle that you've been repeating. That's the fine print of what we did with this Fair Housing Act shit, bro. That's fact.
Yeah, shoot, and that's the thing. Once that shit happens, shit, you look at where we at now. I can guarantee you could get some of these youngers up off the street. None of them could probably start a lawnmower, start a weed whacking, know how to operate a chainsaw, simple shit in life. Start a fire.
Don't know how to turn a wrench. Don't know what a torque wrench is. Don't know what a ratchet is. Don't know what a hammer is. Don't know how to change oil. You know, all that kind of shit. The essentials that you need. Don't know how to cut hair. You know, that's the only thing that I have not seen. That's one trade that I have not seen that we have lost. Is doing hair in a salon or cutting hair at a barbershop. That is one of the oldest trades that we actually still hold on to.
That's a fact right now. Yup. Come to think about it, yup. That's one of the main black shit. Well-off businesses is like shit, your barbershops and hair salons, if they ran right.
If they ran right. Because you already know it's always some old sideways bullshit going on. Because we always figure we gonna buck the system. I'm guilty of it. Most people that I know are guilty of it. Not only us, the white folks do. But they call it Chapter 11 when they buck the system.
Shoot, we got about 15 minutes left. Let me get into this next clip and then give our thoughts and we're gonna wrap it on up.
Yes, sir.
The feeling of racial pride is not new for many African Americans, but the resurgence of black awareness and pride, black men and women face new problems, not only in relation to white society, but to each other in a black society. Recently, there has been a stream of articles on this subject, and the Chicago Daily Defender, America's largest black newspaper, began a series some weeks ago on the emergence of the new black woman. Benny Washington, reporter for the paper, surveyed the Chicago scene to report on how black men and women believe the revolution in racial pride will affect them and their families. Before the sociologists and experts tell us.
Sorry to pause it, but the conversation that's had all throughout YouTube now is the that relationship bullshit and Kevin Samuels and all that. The Godfather, rest in peace. Yeah, did his thing. But yeah, these conversations being had back in the 70s. And it's crazy that from the 70s to now, the shit just got worse. And there's been conversations been had. But let's continue.
How we are supposed to react.
As a reporter for the Chicago Daily Defender, and as a black woman married to a black man, I've become deeply aware of the effects of this new black revolution on the relationship between black man and black woman. I see it among my own friends, and I also see it in my home. But the most revealing and the most vocal statements about what the new black man expects from the new black woman came when I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as black men, black women is concerned is that there's a revolution within a revolution. We are fighting our own woman. Our woman will not allow us to emerge as black men. No. But our black women who has been put in this role of aiding white America, white structure, and castrating the black male has continued doing this. She cannot live with us. It's not that we can't live with her.
Are you blaming us? Are you saying that it's our fault that this happened?
No, I'm not blaming black America women. I just said that I'm blaming the system. They are victims of the system like the black male.
Well, why do you say that we are castrating you? You say that you want to be the leaders. Okay, well, what about the black professional woman? Are you saying that there should be no black professional woman? Are you trying to deny black women the right to be creative, the right to function?
We're not asking for you to take a back seat. We're saying that you have got to be astute enough and can view the situation well enough where you just automatically know what your role is and step back. And whenever you want to have that aggressive thing, this is the thing that the young black man today is not going to tolerate. My old man tolerated it because his old man tolerated it. It came up for years and years and years. But today, the young black man is not going to take it. He's going to be out there as a leader. White America has used black women to keep the black male in his place. And you're still aiding them by saying, well, we are qualified, we want to work, we can help.
Okay, how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility? And men that I have had dealings with, they are perfectly willing to sit back and let us do anything we want to.
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because you know women, as long as we can get, we're going to get, and it's part of our being. We're going to do anything to you that you let us, whether we want to or not.
You don't want to live on the level of income that I can afford you and love me on the basis of that. You want to always be inspired to have all those things that's a part of the great middle-class white American society, and because I can't deliver these things to you, you say that you are not a man.
I don't measure a man by how much money he can bring home. I measure a man by how he treats me. Whether when I'm tired and I'm sick and I'm scared, he's there.
For these women, the men are there. But with the feeling of racial pride has come new conflicts and new problems. Across America, they meet to discuss what black awareness means to their families and to them as black women of today.
You know, there have been a lot of myths created about the black family. We all recognize that. And one of the most pernicious myths is the myth of the black matriarch, you know. And this whole concept, and I think this is one of the reasons that the black community reacted so negatively to the Moynihan report, because we know that that's not true.
It was not like
the black woman has not been a matriarch in the sense that it has been defined thus far. And thank God research, and I hope black research is being done now to reverse that kind of thing. In fact, the black woman has been a woman at the head of a household, not by choice, but by necessity. And more often, that's right, and more often than not, she is not a strong, matriarchal, aggressive, domineering figure. She is a woman in search of a man. But this story has not been told.
The prejudiced society created what we have now. So that's what we were. Okay, we have a revolution going on. We're part of the revolution.
We're in an evolution. I think the revolution is yet to come. Yeah, it's the
well, this thing will say.
It was just crazy what she just said. She said, "This is the evolution. The revolution is to come," and I think that revolution has already happened.
The word revolution around lightly.
Actress Val Ward performs the works of our black poets and dramatists. For her, black awareness is not revolutionary, but the very foundation of her marriage. Val's husband, Francis Ward, talks of the struggles of the black family in the past and the obstacles that lie ahead.
It's extremely important for black history and culture to be transmitted from generation to generation. And the best way, the most effective way that this has always been done is through the family, acting as the primary unit of social organization. And I think one reason why it has not been done with black people is because of the destruction done to our family life. So this certainly has to be one function of the black marriage, to begin to reemphasize and to pick up the thread of Afro-American history and culture that has been left off generations ago when Africans were sold into slavery, when the family unit was purposely destroyed. Part of the obligation of being black is to make absolutely certain that whoever has any kind of control or jurisdiction over your kid, is not bringing him into conflict with the kinds of things we teach. We try to instill in them here in the home.
Most middle-class homes, quote middle-class homes, like I don't even get caught up in that bag, you go into will have some copy of anybody, any white artist, I don't even have to name anybody, instead of the works of black artists. I think it starts, especially that identity part, the books, the kinds of books. All of these things start in the home rather than complaining about them being in the schools at this point.
Unless we're absolutely certain of how that teacher is handling them, then we may have to assume that whole responsibility. We may have to pull them out of school ourselves, and do all the educating ourselves.
Say, for instance, when they say to my child to draw, last year Rhonda painted Abraham Lincoln Brown and she was put in the corner, We had to go up to the school and deal with that. They must be respectable to their peers in school. And what we do, we handle that. We don't say, you jump up, you curse that teacher out, or you say it doesn't exist. But they see us at that school knocking on the door. You have to be in there. Either we're going to control, their minds here, or at least give them the choice.
A lot of this is new to us, and a lot of these things we're grappling with, and we don't want to give anybody the impression that we have the answer to everything.
No, let me cut you off again. People go around talking about hate. We really don't have time to hate because, it goose up the bag. We're loving ourselves. Mm-hmm. This might bring around a lot of other different things.
To be black means to love. It's got nothing to do with having to hate anybody.
It does determine, though, Francis, and has nothing to do with hate. Again, it's love. That we might have to do certain things to protect that love.
It may bring us into conflict with somebody.
Necessary to protect that love.
Finally, I asked Francis about the standards of today's black man as compared with those of 20 years ago.
Standards which white society had projected. I think these standards were that he had to become successful according to the white mode. He had to get a good job, he had to buy a good car, he had to move to the suburbs, he had to rear a good family that went to church every Sunday, that did everything that the typical good American family was supposed to do. And I don't think the black man necessarily is addicted to that notion. I think he sees the falsity of it. I think he sees the total hypocrisy of it. I think he wants to rear a tightly knit family, but not for the purposes that white society says. He doesn't want to rear a family for any sham purposes, just to fulfill some false ethic. But he wants to rear a good family in order to have his children strong, reared in his own image perhaps, and to transmit, most importantly, to transmit the values which he is learning to his children, and to try to ensure as best he can that his children will transmit those same values to their children, and have the same transmission repeated from generation to generation.
Listen to me. I am a woman. Black, that is. And there is but one thing which brings tears to my eyes. And that is to hear man, woman, or child stand up with strength and say, I'm proud. I'm black. And that's beautiful.
I like that one. What's your thoughts, man? I know that was a little bit long.
Yeah, man. I actually believe that these black women, to some of them, they think that everything is our fault because we ain't did enough. We didn't play by the rules of what the white man had put out there for us, or put out there for them. We didn't equal up to that. But it's not our fault that we was born black and they don't want to pay us more than what we should be paid. They pay. Do you know how many movies, books, stories I've heard from my elders talk about how they couldn't get the same pay for doing the same job because the boss or the company didn't want to pay them the equal amount that a white man made. So you have to ask yourself what was wrong with our women. Not all our women, but what was wrong with most of our women for coming at us like that. Well, you need to do more, nigga. You need to do more. I'm gonna put you on child support and I'm gonna take this money the government give me.
Well,
So
I
what the
think
man
I think it's this too. Shit. Not even just the government. I ain't going to even just say just all of the welfare, but uh, just like what some of those ladies said, shit, they out there getting that bag. So it's like shit. That man got to be up to my standards, and it's like shit. Sometimes the opportunities don't come readily as it would for a woman out here because the whole movement. And you
hey,
heard them. They even said it.
see,
Shit, that brought pretty much the disconnect.
so pretty much I ain't gonna ask you, I'm saying this. So pretty much the black woman did get she got hers when she joined the feminist movement, from what it seemed like to me. Because they got all the good jobs, all the good office jobs, all the good advertising jobs, and all that type of corporate shit. They got all those good jobs.
But I ain't
And we
gonna
was,
bullshit you though. It's you got jobs out here. You got blue collar work, like you already know. Them oil field shit, you can make you 6 figures real quick. But
true.
how many women actually want that? That I'm gonna come home oiled up and greased up every night.
Okay, but how many brothers actually went to college to avoid working those type of jobs and got passed up for a woman that was either black, and it wasn't just the black woman, it was white women, it was Mexican women, Indian women.
There's all of
That
them.
movement, that feminist movement pushed us even further down. So what did we do as black men to become successful? We took those mechanical jobs, we took those oil field jobs, we went into business for ourselves. And we did pretty fucking good. And then they dropped the crack on us, niggas. The heroin was here. We shook that. We got that monkey off our back. Then they dropped down on crack. But that's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
Oh yeah. We gonna get it. We gonna get it. Shoot. The one guy brought up the fact, like he said, nah, we ain't gonna get that. We already at our hour limit. We're gonna go ahead and shut it down. Thank you, my man Silent, for joining me tonight. My first second live. So yeah. Thank you again. We're gonna go ahead and end it. Like, share, subscribe. Yeah. Do me a favor, hit that like button. I'm trying to get this 1,000.